a devastating head-on from the early days of BNSF. But just because not very many people know about it doesn't mean it shouldn't be forgotten about. And this resulted in many safety recommendations too. This is the story of the Clarendon Train Collision. On May 28, 2002, a BNSF coal train departed Amarillo, Texas, headed east. There were 3 locomotives on the train, SD70 Max 8876 leading and 8902 trailing, 116 coal cars, mostly Pullman standards built for the BN, and a distributed power unit 8930. These units were all built in 1999, so they were fairly new, and they were painted in the new H2 scheme compared to hundreds of BNSF's inherited executive Max from the BN. In the opposite direction, traversing the same line, which was ex-Fort Worth and Denver, a westbound intermodal departed Childress, Texas. There were only 2 engines, both on the head end, and both Dash 9s, also built in the late 90s. 4385 in the lead and 4566 behind it. The coal train had set out 1 defective car in Amarillo before departing. Very similar to the happenings of another BNSF collision 2 years after, both trains were operating in unsignaled territory and therefore relied on track warrant control to direct train traffic. 7 minutes after departure, the coal train's track warrants was in effect for them to proceed out of restricted limits in Amarillo to the east switch of Malden Siding, and after they passed Malden Siding, to stop at the east switch on the main beside Ashtola Siding. 16 minutes after the coal train had received the second track warrant, and the coal train still quite a few miles west of Ashtola Siding, the coal train's engineer placed a call on his cell phone that lasted 23 minutes, a big no-no. The intermodal, meanwhile, having priority, was asked to take the siding at Ashtola while the coal train was stopped on the main. After the coal train's engineer had got off the phone, he reported that he was clear of milepost 305 and outside the limits of track warrant 15, the first track warrant that they were issued. The track warrant ordering them to stop at Ashtola was track warrant number 16. A few minutes later, the coal train cleared the wayside detector at milepost 294. Cleared meaning the back of the train had passed the detector. Adding the distance to the head end, we can calculate that the head end was at about milepost 292.8. The coal train engineer then reported that status to the dispatcher. Then the coal train received their last track warrant, and after arrival, to proceed from Ashtola to Headley sidings after the passage and clearance of the intermodal, 4385 west. Less than a minute after this transmission took place, the coal train engineer placed another cell phone call, this one lasting for 10 minutes. At about the same time, the coal train passed the West Junction switch at Ashtola Siding. About 3 minutes into this call, the coal train ran the red signal at the point where it was supposed to stop for the intermodal. Meanwhile, the intermodal passed the east end of the siding directly to the east of Ashtola, which was Clarendon Siding, nearest to the town with the same name. The intermodal reached the other end of Clarendon Siding within 2 minutes. 2 minutes after that, the engineer hung up his cell phone. At about milepost 280.1, the coal train engineer was totally lost on where he was. He didn't know if he was supposed to have stopped a while ago or if he was supposed to continue running, because he was distracted by his cell phone calls. He soon answered his own question in the worst way possible. He saw a triangle of lights directly ahead of him on his own track. The intermodal crew also saw the coal train on their same track. All 4 crew members bailed out, and then the trains collided. Witnesses and photographs alike described the scene as total carnage. Multiple engines and cars lay derailed. The engineer to the intermodal train was killed. The door to the lead engine of the intermodal was thrown about 300 feet away from the track. The engine itself, meanwhile, was torched, and both of the trailing units on the trains suffered damage as well, whether that be fire damage or collision damage. 8876's cab section was found at the bottom of a pile of wreckage. 8876 had impaled itself into the lead engine of the intermodal, throwing 4385 aside, and 8876's body crunching up on itself. 8902 was found laying on its right side, with the cab end having suffered fire damage. During cleanup, 8876 and 4385, the lead engines of both trains, were towed away for scrap, while 8902 and 4566 were repaired and are still in service today. The collision and wreck in total ended up causing $8,125,652 in damage. That's a lot. The NTSB pointed the blame at the engineer of the coal train, who was using his cell phone when he shouldn't have been, and wasn't paying attention to his track warrants. However, it was decided that it wasn't all his fault. BNSF discontinued their practice of issuing after-arrival track warrants to moving trains, and instead opted to wait until the train was stopped at the point it was to pass another train. So have we seen the last collision in Texas? Sadly, the answer is no.